Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the regular Board of Education for West Allis, Milwaukee to order, please. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Keller, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suzette, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Emmons?
Here.
Ms. Curran?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Ustra?
Here.
Mrs. Justa?
Here.
Mrs. Sujecki is present. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
President Ziggett?
Present. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the laws of the state of Wisconsin. Dr. Lexman and board members, any modifications or to tonight's agenda or additions?
I'd like to request that 9.2, the employment summary and supplementary contracts be separated. There's a board member that needs to be recused as a relative being considered for a supplementary contract.
Okey doke. Any board members? Okay, we will move on to public comments. Right now, at this time, we have one person signed up. Before I call a person, I'd like to remind you when you address the board, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And we do not debate or answer questions here, but if there is a specific question that you do ask of the board or Dr. Lexman, we will respond before the next school board meeting, either in writing or at the next regularly scheduled school board meeting. I'm proud to announce this one because he's a former student of mine, Evan Barbian. And if you please would give us your address. Your address before you talk. Name and address for the record.
My name is Evan Barbian. Address is 2242 South 60th Street. Hello, members of the board. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Evan Barbian. I'm a senior at West Allis Central High School, and I'm part of the theater program. I've been in it since freshman year. And we are doing James and the Giant Peach. We just got done with our opening weekend. We had nearly 600 people come on our Friday and Saturday. We had great feedback from the audience. It seemed like everyone enjoyed it. We have our cast of James and the Giant Peach is made up of 36 members from Central and Hale, and we have a few from the intermediate schools and one from Walker Elementary. So this weekend, we have our final weekend, our last couple of performances of James and the Giant Peach. Thursday, we have 2 showings during the day to our elementary schools in the district. And then Friday night, we have a show at 7:30. And Saturday, we have 2 shows, one at 2 o'clock and one at 7:30. So we have 2 complimentary tickets for each member of the board and Dr. Lexman for those shows. So if you'll please give them their tickets. We hope that you can come out and see the show this weekend.
Thank you.
It's very fun, and it's a good time with the fans. So thank you for listening to me. And, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you very much.
Those are the only people that I have signed up, but I would ask now if there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the board at this time.
John, this is your moment. We do have another person that wants to address the board. This is your moment to address the board.
If you could please give your name and address.
John V. Nelson, 721 Bryant Street, McQuantico, Wisconsin. You're probably wondering why I'm coming all the way from McQuantico to talk to you tonight. Well, I have a grandson that goes to Frank Lloyd Wright School, and I had the pleasure of being invited on Veterans Day. Actually, it was a Marine Corps birthday, which I'm a Marine, you can tell by the hat. And being a Vietnam vet may be different than other veterans that came back from a war because you were not welcomed home. So be welcome home goes right to the heart. And I can't say it means more to me than anybody else, but it certainly lifts my spirits. And I am thankful for life, probably above everything else. I've said those 3 words so many times. I am thankful. And, but being a writer, I was a journalism student, English major in college. And I took a Vietnam literature course at Whitewater to get a teaching degree. I got that degree, but there were no jobs. So I ended up doing church directories, as I talked to Jeff about the other day at Frank Lloyd Wright. And, but what's exciting to me is that that encouraged me to think about writing a book and telling the story, a personal story from things that had happened with me. I was just telling Deidre, thank you. My mind's going at 74. What I hope happens that this book encourages people to never give up. When I was 10 years old, I struck out in a baseball game, and my dad said, "You're going to strike out a lot, John. Just remember to never give up." And I think that was probably the most important day of my life. But I hope what this book does is it passes that kind of encouragement. I think that's probably why I'm the face of this earth, to encourage other people. The novel itself the book is a novel. Half of it is from my personal experience. The other half is embellished a little bit. I'm a storyteller. I was born in Minnesota, so Paul Bunyan and the Blue Ox, that's a story. People say, which half is true? I said, well, that's something for you to figure out. But I've come here too, not just to talk about the book, but show how veterans and generations to come are tied together. My grandson, Ben, is in 7th grade at Frank Lloyd Wright. He was at a school that was shut down last year, and the teachers that he had loved him so much they wanted him to come to Frank Lloyd Wright. I'm thankful that he could. One of the teachers has the book, and hopefully that will be an encouragement to her. But I started out by saying how thankful I was as a veteran to be, let's say, honored, you know, and that's a nice thing, but how do you pass it on, whether it's through a book, whether it's through a grandson? His mother, Nikki, always honors me, even though I'm not her dad. And my son just sent me an email on Veterans Day. I'm sure glad you came home and married our mom. So I think the expression, especially with this book, is to show how when you go through a war, we all go through a war, whether it's losing a child, you know, going through a divorce, whatever it is, the struggles that you have in life, that you remember to never give up. If all 4 of my children were here, and certainly my grandchildren would say the same, they'd say, what do you want, what does your father or grandfather want you to remember when the Lord takes them home? And that would be never give up. I think when you, on the back of my van, it says always pray and never give up. I think that applies in any circumstance, no matter what you're going through. My best friend from the Marine Corps, there's a picture on this book, a white man and a black man. I'm 5'6", he's 6'6", and he's black and I'm white, and he was from the south, I was from the north. Despite the disparity, we're like brothers today. I just celebrated his 71st birthday with him at his church at Canaan Baptist Church. It shows the difference you can make with other people, the encouragement. My struggles with jobs until I got a job in the church directory business, his struggles was with alcohol and cocaine. But I never gave up on him, and today he not only goes to this church, but he has a drug and alcohol and drug rehabilitation program called Free in One, free from drugs and one in Christ. And when I walked into the church a couple weeks ago, it was raining, and the person that opened the door, I said, you know Willie Pons Jr.? He said, he's my spiritual mentor. That shows how important it is to never give up on somebody. And if you wanted to think about purchasing this book, you can go to Amazon.com and go to Hitting the Wall and purchase the book. But I came here to thank you for this opportunity to be an encouragement, not only to my grandson, but to have an opportunity to go beyond that with people in West Allis. I'm thankful for all of you, for especially Sue for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
certainly
much, sir.
enjoyed talking with you. Thank you, John. Anyone else that's in the audience now that would like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. We'll start with 7.1. This is a report from Nathan Hale High School. Our student representatives are here, so introduce yourselves again and share your report.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rao. I'm a senior at Nathan Hale High School, and I'm on the football team. And actually, I received an honorable mention all conference this year, so I was happy about that.
Congratulations. Very cool.
I'm Anna Coleman. I'm a junior, and I'm on the dance team, and I'm in HOSA and PBIS Kids Club and Student Council.
Yeah, to start, we'd just like to thank you guys for giving us the chance to share a couple of good things about LU guys. And we'll begin with our PTSA craft fair.
We had our annual Nathan Hale Craft Fair Saturday, November 4th from 9 o'clock to 3 p.m. We once again had a sold-out fair with 125 crafters to sell their fine items. There was a bake sale along with breakfast and lunch items available as well, so people came and spent the day. Over 1,800 people came through the door. This was an increase of over 300 people in attendance from last year. All proceeds will now go to help fund PTSA initiatives and Friends of Music activities, scholarships, and much more.
On the sports scene, we'd like to congratulate junior cross-country runner Christy Einberger, who was the top individual qualifier out of our sectional and finished 5th overall, successfully earning her a spot in the WIAA State Cross Country Championship race held on October 14th in Wisconsin Rapids. She went on to place 86th out of 189 finishers in the state meet. Impressively, on a very challenging course, she managed to run a lifetime personal best. Only 13 of the 189 competitors accomplished this. Our girls' volleyball team finished a successful season, coming up just one match short of qualifying for the state tournament this year. As the number 2 seed in our sectional tournament bracket, the ladies beat Oak Creek in the sectional semifinal before losing a hard-fought match versus the number 1 seed Green Dip to close out their season. We congratulate the Lady Huskies on a fantastic season. Also, congratulations goes out to Peyton Mako, senior Nathan Hale wrestler, on his recent acceptance and signing of a Division I scholarship with the Missouri Tigers, where he's planning to pursue a major in engineering and continue his wrestling college career after high school. As far as we are aware, this is the first Division I scholarship recipient ever from Nathan Hale. We wish him the best of luck in the upcoming season as he strives for back-to-back state championships.
And now for leadership conference opportunities. 20 Nathan Hale students were selected to participate in a leadership conference at Carroll University on October 23rd, sponsored by Jostens and led by motivational speaker Mike Smith, on taking culture and climate to the next level in our school. Over 1,200 students representing approximately 50 schools from all over the state were present. It was a great day to learn, share, and come back with great ideas to implement. This team is now part of our student PBIS team putting their ideas into action. And now, this Thursday, 12 student-athlete leaders recommended by their coaches and advisors will be participating in the Greater Metro Conference Leadership Summit, hosted at DSHA. National leadership speaker Craig Hillier will be presenting to a group of students from all 10 GMC schools, giving them an opportunity to discuss and build a sense of team throughout the conference. This program will provide student leaders with the skills and tools necessary to become great leaders and to help ensure that our teams have significant seasons.
Last week we had our ACT practice day. In preparation for the official statewide ACT tests being administered to all juniors this year on February 27th and 28th as part of the State Accountability Measures and School Report Card, Nathan Hale held its annual ACT practice test day last week Thursday, November 9th, in our main gymnasium for our 348 juniors. It was a great learning opportunity for all, and we are proud to share that 321 of our students were in attendance, taking advantage of this learning experience. That is 94% attendance for a practice test. This shows an overwhelming commitment by our students to doing well and being prepared for the February assessment. This test will now be corrected and distributed back to the individual students to be reviewed and discussed in their core classes to increase their readiness for the official test day. Research finds that 57% of students that take the ACT test a second time go up in score 1 to 2 points just by familiarizing themselves with the process and questions. In support of this, the first opportunity to all juniors was provided in a less intense environment to maximize their future results.
As shared last month, following Hurricane Maria and the earthquake, Puerto Rico and Mexico were in a state of emergency and need our support. Multicultural Club, Spanish National Honor Society, Rotary Interact, and HOSA hosted a school-wide collection drive to support our neighbor countries in devastation, and we are proud to report that Hale collected 7 carloads of food and items to do our part in the process. Now, with the season of thanks and giving upon us, there is no rest for Nathan Hale School community, as we are right back in the holiday spirit by giving back to the community through our school-wide Thanksgiving food drive sponsored by the Rotary Interact Club from now through November 20th. All items collected will stay right here in our West Allis community, supporting those in need.
And finally, we have our Red Ribbon Week. The Nathan Hale Peers with Purpose student organization, working as part of the Nathan Hale SADD chapter, are sponsoring Red Ribbon Week, focusing on the destructive impact of drug and alcohol use. In reflection upon how many of us know someone who has been affected by these destructive decisions, we are encouraging everyone to make healthy choices to stay safe and sober and show their support by wearing red this Thursday. And we'd just like to thank you guys for being here again, and that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by board members? Seeing none? Okay, thank you for the report, and as usual, you do not need to stick around. Attend till... Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Great, we will move on to 7.2, our school showcase this evening. We have Frank Lloyd Wright Intermediate School, so we welcome the team.
Just be careful of the cord. I think you're fine, though.
Good evening, and on behalf of the staff at FLW, we want to thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight and just kind of discuss a couple things that we're focusing on for this school year. If you recall back to last year when we presented to the board, the room was full, and I believe that that was the night that the decision was made in regards to Lincoln Intermediate. And so our focus tonight is where are we at how many months later. So it's really focusing on that transition of Lincoln coming to FLW and forming one community. Before we kind of get into our PowerPoint presentation, I just want to do some introductions. We did invite some parents and some other teachers that at this point, I don't know if they're going to be here tonight, but I'd just like to recognize them anyway. I want to start with Mr. Fish, our assistant principal, Ms. Niles, our Dean of Students, Ms. Alahi, our academic dean. The two parents that we asked to participate tonight are Lori Willard and Annie Lewis, and they are both Lincoln parents, and their kids are 8th graders at FLW this year. And then we have Ms. Sikora, who is an 8th grade math teacher at FLW. And then we also asked Ms. Gorski, who's one of our NXGL teachers who was at Lincoln last year, FLW this year, and she communicated that she was not able to come tonight. So that's kind of the team that we have here. And Ms. Jensen is also a staff member. She's an 8th grade teacher at FLW, and I thank her for coming here tonight. Focusing on our presentation, just to kind of go back to where we were a year ago, and this is something that kind of guides what we do every day at FLW. And right when you walk into our main entrance, our section 5 outside of our office, we have a sign that talks about these 3 points, and this is really what guides us every day. And not to like rehash it again, but to kind of focus on our classrooms being safe, both for students and for our teachers. The idea that forming relationships is one of the most important things that we do every day. And then finally, every student that walks through the doors at FLW, every student can and will learn, and we'll find what that looks like. And so that's the guiding principle, and I just wanted to refer to that kind of once again to kind of set the tone for the presentation. So academics are always kind of the thing that drives us. And so reviewing the achievement that we had last year, this is looking at our student map data. And so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in the areas of math and reading, starting with where they were in fall of 16-17 and then where they ended in spring. And so you can see in every grade level, tremendous growth shown by our student body, which is really encouraging. And as an assumption, we just kind of put a note there that we're anticipating that there'll be an increase in our state report card score for the 16-17 assessment. Last year, our state report card score was a 63.4. And so we're assuming that with the data that we're seeing, that we'll see an improvement on the state report card as well. When we're looking at college and career ready, and this is in alignment to the strategic plan for the district. So again, you can see where our students currently are. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, math and reading once again. And so you can see where each grade level kind of played out. So when you look at that as a school, our math as a school, we're at 44%. Our goal at the end of this year is to have 54% of our kids college and career ready. So it's an increase of 10% is what our focus is. When you're looking at reading, again, when you take the average for our building, it's at 52%. The goal at the end of this year is 61%, so a 9% increase as to what we're looking at. And this is to stay true to having 80% of our kids college and career ready by the year 2021, so the strategic plan. So getting into kind of the focus for this presentation. So the big goal for us this year for the 17-18 school year is creating one unified community. Okay, and what that looks like is getting to know the Lincoln students, getting to know the families, getting to know the staff, and then just helping with that transition that occurred to get the year started. Again, we asked parents and students and staff to participate. I thank Ms. Sikora for being here, and we'll start with the parents. Not here. But just something that I'd like to note, and feel free to jump in. But one thing that we're trying to do is, you hear through social media and everything that there's all this kind of talk going on between FLW kids and Lincoln kids. And truthfully, in the building every day, I haven't seen that once. And so we're truly trying to form this one community. And one thing that we tried this year was we had our first ever parent day, where we had parents come to school and attend school with their child or with their students. And when this idea came to be, really the target number, we would have been happy with like 50 parents. This is the first time that we're doing it, not really knowing what to expect. And on that day, I put up there, we probably had roughly about 250 parents that came to school with their kids that day, and it was an incredible turnout. The feedback that we received was really positive, and it's something that the parents want to continue as kind of like a yearly thing. And this idea came from the Studer information, so the results. So just in communicating to our parents, this is what we're about, come see what we're about on a daily basis. And so that was one thing that I can speak to in regards to how we're trying to incorporate and get parents into our building. So with students, we just bulleted a couple of things that we tried doing this year. So we had our Wildcat Welcome, and we had that for our incoming 6th grade students. We had a second welcome for our Lincoln students that were coming, so they had their own separate time where they could go through the building. It was really positive. We did activities so that they would feel comfortable coming in. We had our first PBIS incentive recently with a huge turnout with activities both inside and outside that day. If you look at our athletic teams and the clubs that we're offering after school, you'll see that it truly is one community, a mix of students that are representing our building. just mention the Parent Day. And something that's coming up this week that we're excited about is, and I don't know if there's any Ninja Warrior viewers, but Abel Gonzalez, who's been on American Ninja Warrior, the reality show, he's been on for 9 seasons, and he's coming to FLW this Thursday. And he comes with a really powerful message. And something that we've communicated to each other is that we have this transition going, and he's going to tie that into his message. And so he's going to come Thursday. He's going to be with us from 8 until noon, and he's going to address each grade level and kind of tell his story. He's going to be part of our gym classes, and so we're excited for that visit coming up. We do have some student interviews that we're going to play right now, just both FLW and Lincoln students.
And I went to Lincoln last year. I'm Haley, and I'm in 7th grade, and I went to FLW. I'm Allie, and I'm in 7th grade, and I went to FLW last year. I'm Elvis. I'm in 7th grade, and I went to Lincoln last year. I'm Eddie. I'm in 7th grade, and I went to Lincoln last year. I'm Madison, and I'm in 7th grade, and I went to FLW last year. Me and a bunch of my friends came to FLW this year. The first time I came to the school, I thought it was going to be horrible. I wasn't going to make no friends, and it was pretty fun. I thought the hallways were too crowded. I couldn't really get to my classes, but now I'm having an easier time getting to my classes. Yeah.
When I first heard that Lincoln kids were coming over, I was pretty nervous because I thought we already had way too much kids in FLW, but when everyone got settled down, we started getting used to everyone, and it was perfectly fine.
When the Lincoln kids first came to FLW, I thought it was going to be kind of bad, but then it turned out to be pretty great because a lot of my friends from elementary school went to Lincoln, so I got to meet them. At the beginning of the school year, I was scared and nervous because I didn't know where my classes were, so I depended on my friends to show me where they were, but now I'm used to it.
When we first found out about all the Lincoln kids coming to FLW, it was kind of like crazy to think how many kids it was actually going to be because Lincoln was so small and FLW was really big. But now it doesn't feel like that much more.
When everybody came, it was like pretty crowded and not normal, but now it's kind of just like if it was not as the Lincoln kids are coming in, it's just all FLW and it's just normal. People talk and yeah. Hi!
And one other thing just to mention about the parents that were asked to come and speak tonight, we sought out parents that were interviewed last year through the media, just in regards to when that decision was finally made. And so in conversations, they asked, okay, so what do you want us to talk about? And basically the message was, how do you feel? Like, we're not going to tell you what to say, but where are you feeling right now? And so that was going to be the message, and that's kind of how we sought out the parents that we asked to come in here, was through people that were involved and, again, part of media coverage last year. In regards to our staff this year, and merging the Lincoln staff and the FLW staff. So we have a couple of new focuses this year. So that first point are new teams. And so this year we have co-teaching models in our core classrooms. And so in math and literacy, we have our reg ed teacher with a special ed teacher that are co-teaching throughout the day. And our special ed teacher is in there, they're co-planning, they're talking about kids, they're assessing together. And if there's any behavior issues or if students need breaks or anything, we say they're untouchable. So they're in that room, and then we address situations by other means. And so that's something new, this co-teaching model, not only with our special ed teachers, but also with our reading teachers are going in and co-teaching. This year, for the first time in the 3 years that I've been there, At FLW, our teachers are teaching one content, and so the first 2 years, I would be a math and a science teacher, where now this year, Ms. Sikora is just teaching math. And so we kind of have that concept of houses again. We have our entire staff, members of different committees, and these committees are created to just kind of get us to know each other and then address different components of our building. And so we have a PTA committee, and we have literacy night.
Yes, PBIS, literacy night, the school resource center. We have something, a magic bookstore to fund prizes for PBIS, and many others. We asked staff this summer, what committees do you think that we really need in our building to make it operate fully? And we asked staff then to just pick one committee that they were passionate about, so everybody would participate in one thing and be able to give 100%. In the past, we've had the same committees, maybe a few less, but it was generally the same people on each committee, so we really asked everyone to own one piece of our building this year.
And now this time, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Sikora. And when we spoke, it was just kind of Lincoln. Obviously, there was a huge transition for Lincoln, but then again, in regards to the FLW staff, there was a big change as well. And so we asked Ms. Sikora if she could just kind of walk us through kind of her thoughts and experiences through this.
Thank you. I'll apologize. I'm a little under the weather. Don't worry, I have an appointment at the Wellness Center tomorrow. So. Well, coming from the viewpoint of an FLW staffer, when we first heard about the Lincoln closing, of course, we were all very surprised, as was everyone from Lincoln. And once the dust settled and we answered the important questions of who was going to be working where, then we started to just take a hard look at it and say, well, it'll be a big increase in students, but it's not the biggest increase that we've ever had. We've had up to 1,100 students. I think that was, I want to say 6 years ago. I don't know if you remember, Julie. It wasn't that long ago, but it was about 6 years ago. So having 950 this year certainly is a change from last year, but it's not the largest amount of students we've ever worked with. So that we knew we would be prepared for. And, excuse me, we knew that as far as new staff members coming, these weren't people that we didn't know. We knew all of the Lincoln staff from district in services. We knew them from CAT meetings that we'd have monthly. So it wasn't like there were a bunch of strangers coming into our buildings. And likewise for students, FLW students know Lincoln students from before. They knew them from elementary schools. They knew them from neighborhoods. So it really was just kind of a coming together of people who already knew each other. So there wasn't a huge change in that aspect. Another thing that a bunch of us decided to do, and Jeff kind of stole my thunder by mentioning it already, next time we'll compare notes a little bit better, but we thought with this new influx of students, as long as a big change is going to be made, let's go even bigger. And as Jeff said, previously core teachers had taught 2 subjects. I used to teach math and science, and while science is my undying love, we brought a proposal to the administration team and said, what if, with this new influx of students, we went to teachers teaching 1 core subject area to really focus and be able to have more effective planning, more effective instructional delivery, and just more focused approach to that subject. And because we had the additional students coming in, we were able to rework our house system and work it out so that 4 teachers could work together to service 1 group of students. Each of those teachers teaching one of the core subject areas, science, social studies, math, and balanced literacy. So it provided a pretty exciting opportunity for us too, and something that we had talked about in the past. Wouldn't it be great if we could have 1 subject area? I do remember it being the first conversation I ever had with Marty when he first came to the school district, another middle school teacher, and I said, hey, since you're new here, here's what we'd like. And we worked it out at FLW, so you can take that off your to-do list.
Nice, thank you.
When the school year started, having new teachers come into the building, not a big deal, because FLW is a big school. We always have new teachers every year. And the fact that we already knew most of them from other district in-service, falling into a pattern of working together and getting ready for school, that big push at the beginning of the year was very easy for everybody. I do want to say that I did talk with Ms. Gorski before, earlier today, and so some of the comments that I'm going to share coming from Lincoln teachers came from her colleagues that she shared with me earlier today. So, excuse me, for the Lincoln teachers coming in, several comments that I've heard from Ms. Gorski and the 3 other teachers. They were really happy to come into a building that had an established administration team, because that had been a little bit of a struggle for them at Lincoln. So they said that coming in, things felt like there was a set order, a set purpose. It was very clear what the different responsibilities of the different administrators were, and so that they said that they felt very comfortable walking into that type of a situation. It was much more easy start to the year for them than it had been previously. And then also, this is the one point that Ashley and I both shared with each other at, earlier today. The beginning of the school year is new for everybody. No matter where you came from the year before, everybody is new in 8th grade. Everybody's new in 7th grade. Everybody's new in 6th grade. So kids coming into my room, it doesn't matter where they came from. They were in 7th grade last year, but today is their first day of 8th grade. So this is new for everybody. And so we just settled down, said, okay, who came from where? Who was at FLW last year? Who was at Lincoln last year? Who came from someplace different? Share where you came from. Okay, now let's get down to business, and we just begin building our classroom community just like we did every year at the beginning of the year. Were there some little scuffles here and there? Of course there were. Were they always between Lincoln and FLW kids? Not always. Were they sometimes between Lincoln and Lincoln? Were they sometimes between FLW and FLW? Sure. That's kids getting to know each other at the beginning of the year. We're talking about a bunch of pre-teenagers here. I mean, it's never a perfect day. But all in all, I think the transition went much more smoothly. I mean, we certainly had a lot of fears about, are there going to be fights in the hallways and all this stuff probably blown up by kids talking on social media, whatever. But we just haven't seen that this year. And now it's even hard to think back, you know, and say, you know, for instance, I was at an IEP after school today, and one of the other teachers said, now, which school was so-and-so at last year? And I had to stop and think for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute, and I couldn't remember. I had to look, because it's not an issue anymore. Now we're all FLW. Now we're all 8th graders getting ready for high school. That's all I have.
And just kind of in conclusion, the last slide that we'll talk about, just moving forward for this year, what are our goals? And so academically, we're still looking at meeting the growth that we briefly discussed earlier in this presentation with college and career readiness for our students. Also, a huge focus on closing the gaps for all learners at FLW. So in regards to kind of this idea of what drives us every day, meeting the needs of all students, again, some of these points were talked about last year, but truly creating a plan that's going to work for the students that enter that building. And so we have the school within the school, year 2. With St. A, we also started parent cafes this year as a new component, again, to draw parents in and just start those relationships in that community building. The co-teaching model that was discussed here. And then we also have programs, we have our Bridges program, we have an academic support that's new this year, where students that are having difficulty in electives now have an academic support with a licensed teacher, small group, academic focus. We have our NXGL offerings, and then we have our community resource room for families at FLW, as well as families in the community that are in need. So that's kind of our focus for this year. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity. That was a quick glimpse into what our focuses are this year. And we're excited with the transition that occurred and everything that we have to look forward to for the remainder of this year. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Board members, questions or comments? Heather?
I just have to say that the parents at PTA Council last week were so pumped about the Parents' Day, so I hope you are definitely planning on doing that again, because that's all I heard was, we're doing it again. He doesn't have a choice, so I don't think you have much choice.
Sue?
I just wanted to again thank Frank Lloyd Wright for that wonderful event for the veterans. It was very emotional, and having had the opportunity to talk to quite a few of them, some of them have never told their story. And giving them that opportunity was huge. And for you to continue to give them that opportunity and be able to get some of the comments down from our World War II veterans is huge. And I know I talked to you, Mr. Fish, about a specific parent, but it's just, thank you.
Dan?
Thank you, Jeff. Team leadership, transition, you've all proved it, shown it, and I know you're going to continue to do it. I've had the opportunity to attend a couple basketball games as of late, and when you see the Lincoln as well as Frank Lloyd Wright students cheer each other on, there is teamwork in that bench, and they're just loving it. So hats off to all of you for doing an exceptionally hard transition and hard job to get everybody to think that same way. But thank you very much.
And I will say, thank you for listening to the teachers about the houses, because that is really cool that you've taken that feedback and applied it, and it seems to be, we have some happy faculty, so that's really cool. So, thanks for that.
I think you set the benchmark for how we can transition, because we don't just do this once or twice. We've done it many times over the years, and you've just proven how successfully it's able to be accomplished. Your leadership team is wonderful, and we're really glad for all you've done to make this a smooth transition. Thank you.
Heather?
Do you guys have specific needs in your community closet that you know of, that if you put out there, and I mean, I know you're constantly taking things in, but is there specific things if you think to yourself, just because I know people are always asking, what are they looking for?
I would say at this point, food is something that we're running low
Okay.
on. I know that we've just received some donations in regards to like winter coats and hats and things like that. So if there would be anything, it would be food.
Okay.
And the committee that is behind it, that is what their number one goal between now and especially the holiday season.
Anyone else? Thank you for sharing with us this evening.
Thank
Continued
you.
success.
Thank you.
And happy holidays.
Great job. Really good. So we're on to 7.3, the legislative update. So we're receiving some clarifications now on the special needs voucher program. So this was part of the most recent budget that was passed. And so SWSA, the Southeastern Wisconsin Schools Alliance, so they're sharing kind of more of the detail now. And this goes back to September 6th. But when this was taken up, and it really was a conversation about what appears to be some unlimited funding that gets attached to the special needs voucher, which has got a whole bunch of superintendents with their hair on fire, including me, because it's a concern about the way this has been written and being interpreted. So the Legislative Fiscal Bureau is stating that there are no definitions for what the aidable costs could be for the program. There's nothing that says what are not considered reasonable services for therapy, so it's kind of a wide open door. Senator Erpenbach of Madison area asked the Legislative Fiscal Bureau to confirm that if the parents in school agree that the services have to include pretty much anything that the state is responsible for paying, for these services. So there's still some more clarification, and I think we'll hear more from DPI, but there's quite a bit of activity around this just because it could open the door to some increased costs for us. So Assembly Bill 304, this bill requires, upon request of a parent or guardian, a school board operator of an independent charter school governing body of a private school participating in a parental choice program and managing entity or opportunity school to excuse a pupil enrolled in any grade from 3 to 12 from taking any examination required under state or federal law. So this one potentially opens the door wide to families opting out of state assessments, right? So we don't have the 95% participation rate anymore, so it's a little bit less of a concern, but it's important for us, especially if we have high-performing kids, we want to make sure we have them in the pool. But it also, when you start having more and more families opt out, and you start using data like Frank Lloyd Wright just did to start to target, okay, what do we need to focus on? Your picture of your data starts being skewed, or it gets to be a little opaque because you don't have all the kids in it. So that's one that we're watching. But and then Assembly Bill 250, this goes back to, it eliminates the requirement for DPI to award grants for alternative education programs, and eliminates DPI's rules related to the administration of these grants. So under current law, DPI must award grants to schools for districts for alternative education programs, so we receive some of that funding. So it's a program that's approved by the school board. I think ours is probably focused on DOTKey. So we're going to watch this, if this changes funding that be coming through these grants. It's not enough to run an entire program, but there are kids identified in state statutes as at risk, and then there are funds that come through these grant opportunities. And then at the federal level, there's nothing at this time. So we'll go on to 7.4. So our congratulatory resolutions, and this is going to take me a while, so
Could I ask
relax.
a question before
Sure.
we go to the take you a while? I'm looking at the very first thing, the vouchers. And, you know, they're saying that the state is saying, yes, they are responsible for paying for these services as long as they're in the IEP. Then you go to the back, and it says that they're no longer going to give you grants for alternative programs, of which it seems like there is, that they're not living up to, it would be a concern that the state is not going to live up to the words that they put on paper.
Possibly. These are, I mean, there are students that, with special needs that are in alternative education programs. But I think in the case of the special needs voucher program and the alternative ed funding, I think those are separate pots, right? So I think, but I think we're going to have to let this play out a little bit further before we really understand it. But the special needs voucher one is one, like I said, has the way it's being interpreted right now has a lot of attention being paid. So we're hoping that there may be legislation that even fixes some of that.
Okay.
So our certificates of recognition. First, Wilson Elementary School, Wilson Shower Power. Shower Power. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shower Power. That's our Lego robotics team. They competed at Marquette University High School. They qualified for the upcoming sectional tournament, which is on Sunday, December 10th. That'll be held at Waukesha West High School. And the team members are Grace Dooley, Noah Mendez, Cody Mendez, Abby Walter, Amilcar Moreno, and John Schloss. Irving Elementary School is being recognized for their Veterans Day event. They held last Friday where they honored over 40 veterans. These vets were family or friends of the Irving staff and students, and the Irving Cub Scouts acted as the color guard and presented the flag, which was kind of cool. So I attended that one, and then I ran over to Frank Lloyd Wright, and again, we want to recognize FLW, and in particular, the Next Generation Learning Community that put on the luncheon and kind of designed and hosted the event. So it was kind of a cool thing to see happen kind of while the rest of the school day is going on around it, which impressed me too. So a number of as we're wrapping up fall athletics, so a whole bunch of students to recognize here. I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names. But the following Central High School student athletes received all Woodland Conference recognition in their respective fall sports. For boys and girls cross country, David Bayer was a medal winner, Michaela Rapati, medal winner, and Katya Miller. In football, Josiah Benjamin was honorable mention, Traven Davis, honorable mention, Salim Deloach, honorable mention, Glenn Martin, honorable mention, Colton Rosas, honorable mention, Tim Seymour, honorable mention, and Devote Banislow, honorable mention. And then football scholar athletes, Joshua Benjamin was a medal winner. Luis Cruz, Trayvon Davis, Armando Murillo, Adonis Patrick, Colton Rojas, and Deontay Vanislow. Then in boys soccer, Sam Jorgensen and John Wardinsky. In boys soccer scholar athletes, Austin Crook was a medal winner, Joshua Clemente, David Hughes, John Wardinsky, and Joshua Zeman. Girls swimming scholar athletes, Olivia White is a medal winner, and Cecilia Guerrero. Boys volleyball scholar athletes, Evan Barbian was a medal winner, and Brandon Plank. Girls volleyball, Madison Gordon, and girls volleyball scholar athletes, Madison Gordon again, a medal winner, Vanessa Myers, and Zoe Nikowski. The following Nathan Hale High School student athletes received all Greater Metro Conference recognition in their respective fall sports. So boys and girls cross country, Christy Einberger was third team. Boys and girls cross country scholar athlete, Carrie Karth and Julia Semesterat. Football, Jack Bork, Joey DeTroshi, I'm sure that one's wrong. DeTorres. Jonathan Rao and Matthew Saavedra was honorable mention. Football, scholar athletes, Joey DeTroyce, Joey Paddock, and Jonathan Rao. Boys soccer, Hunter Mauerman, and boys soccer scholar athlete, Jared Everts. Girls swim and dive scholar athletes, Chloe Andrus, Olivia Dufay, Emily DeLoe, and Amy Schmidt. Girls tennis scholar athletes, Lindsay Hammerer, Brianna Jensen, and Michaela Zimmer. And boys volleyball, Isaac Lawson was honorable mention. Boys volleyball scholar athlete, Jacob Strothman and Danny Tabasca. Girls volleyball, AB Arena first team, Kelly Ann Sotiros second team, and Madeline Lawson was honorable mention. Girls volleyball scholar athletes, Abby Arena, Tegan Bunny, Jory Bursick, Emma Dostalek, Maddie Lawson, Kelly Ann Sotiros, and Elaine Zhang. And that's the congratulatory resolutions. A couple updates under 7.5. Our last meeting was on October 23rd. We had one public comment, was some advocacy to change school transfer rules. And those are things that, the board can look at from time to time. We're interpreting those things quite strictly, as I think we should, so that all families are treated by the same rules. But I think as we move forward and we have more conversation about schools having kind of unique learning opportunities embedded in them, that we'll revisit the conversation about choice. Now, that's probably 3-4 years down the road, but when schools start to have kind of unique learning opportunities, and we don't have them everywhere, then I think an opportunity to really have well-managed choice could be a new, I think, opportunity for the community. In terms of just some quick updates, our school improvement plan meetings continue, and it's interesting that one of the things I think we're learning is that we haven't adopted a strict format for what a school improvement plan should look like. We want schools to really organize their school improvement plan in a way that makes sense for them, that they can really implement it. So they range from things that are really tightly organized with hyperlinks and all the way to things that are on paper written out by hand and everything in between. But it seems to be working for each school. Now, it's a little more for the team, myself, Deidre, Adam, as we get out, because we have to get our heads around each format and each trying to understand it all. But I think that's on us. That's our job. And it seems to be working for those schools. So those meetings continue. We've shared information about police body cameras in schools. And so our last meeting with principals, we actually had one of the school liaison officers from Hale come in and talk about, how she's managing her camera. And so asking principals to do some conversations with staff, so just so they're aware. So it's going to be, any police officer, but in particular our school resource officers, that they're having conversations in the school with staff, with students. Our plan to relocate the servers out of this building, that is on track, so that's going to happen over the winter break. So it's supposed to be done by January 2nd. Kids come back on January 3rd. And in between, there'll be a lot of organizing around here for people that are working. Or we've told a number of 12-month employees, if you're not taking vacation, you can work from home, because that's where you have internet and that's where you can get your email and get the Skyward. Right? Because we won't have internet here, but because we're on Google now, all that email lives out on other servers, and Skyward lives out on other servers, so we have access to what we use to get our work done. And then we're going to be adding a couple workshops coming up, and maybe I should have saved this for later, but adding a workshop on nursing services, and then I reached out to CISA. So we're going to flow those two in the relatively near term here, because those are two that were requested a little while ago, so we wanted to get those on our workshop schedule. And that's my update.
Thank you. Questions for Dr. Lexman? Okay, we'll move on to the president's report. Pardon me. Before we check calendars, I just want to say I was contacted by the city. They're interested in a board member being on the West Allis Youth Commission. So if you are interested in that, email me or text me or call me after the meeting and during the week, and I'll get you to them. Dan, you and Gail shared that responsibility last year. What were the days? I couldn't remember the days. I know it's usually a meeting that you guys miss.
Usually interfered with the board meeting.
Okay.
So that's why we kind of teamed up on it, and I think that still might be a good idea.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be open to that.
So, I mean, it needed a little push, but I'm sure if we, because there were some events that they wanted to do that never really took place. So it's still a good idea that somebody shares the duties with.
Okay. Well, just so whoever is interested would know what's involved.
Yeah, it's just basically listening to the youth and to the mayor and you know, putting some ideas about as far as how to raise funds for schools or for the district, things of that nature.
Sure, okay. And one community thing coming up November 20th is the West Allis Community Improvement Foundation's Breakfast of Thanksgiving. That starts at 7:30, and that is at the Hampton Inn. And if you are interested, Suzette has tickets, and you can also get them through the City Hall. Following tonight's meeting, we have a closed session meeting. Then on Monday, November 20th, we have a learning and technology workshop, guaranteed and viable curriculum. Monday, November 27th, regular scheduled board meeting, and then following that, a learning and technology workshop dealing with the school report cards. Then we jump to Monday, December 11th, regular board meeting, followed by a business services workshop and budget calendar and maintenance report. And then on Monday, December 18th, regular Board of Education meeting, followed by student services workshop and the SGTSD update and the community impact project. And as Dr. Lexman had said, after we met this last week, Stephanie, those are the ones we wanted to get on right away because they kind of go back the furthest. And then we can review other items. And just to remind people that may be watching at home, all of our board meetings start at 6 o'clock. They're televised. When we go into workshops, those are not televised, but those are open to the public. Board members, any community projects or activities coming up? Heather?
Wednesday night is Central's Dine Out at Qdoba from 5 to 9. And I know it's a little ways off, but December 2nd, Horseman is having a craft and vendor fair. So you can go shop in the morning and then go to the parade in the afternoon and the evening. So make a full day of it.
Well, that's right. We'll probably be asked
To do
for the parade on the 2nd. Anyone else?
Yep.
No.
Friday is Wilson's Dine Out at Panda Express on Highway 100, so go out there, have some nice Chinese food.
Heather, what day was that?
December 2nd.
Oh, same as previous.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. Dr. Lexman asked that we separate those items, so we'll take them individually, so it's really not a consent agenda. There's two items on the consent agenda we'll deal with separately. 9.1, the approval of the minutes from the October 23rd workshop and board meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. 9.2, the employment summary and supplemental contracts.
Yeah, so it was Heather that asked to have it separated out, just so, again, we avoid conflicts of interest.
Sounds good.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That passes. We will move on to our action items. We have two this evening. 10.1, the 2018-2019 student and parent school calendar. Dr. Lexman.
Okay, a couple things I'd like to point out is, if the board recalls, we've engaged in a survey of parents as part of a kind of a collective effort by a number of school districts in southeastern Wisconsin to try to get a more unified spring break. So could we get more and more districts having spring break on the same, roughly the same week? And the real intent of that is for families that have kids in multiple districts or employees working in multiple districts, was really what the needs we were trying to meet. I was kind of surprised by, we got very strong support in our community for a consistent spring break. If you've seen the survey results before, but definitely support for a consistent one. More support if, spring break doesn't include Easter, that Easter would always be a long weekend. And then in terms of last week of March, first week of April, our families preferred first week of April, but more had no preference. So we kind of leaned into the first week of April is where we went. And the other thing that we're trying to adhere to, and some of the kind of rules that we try to follow now when building our calendar, is having professional development days or vacation days on days when elections are held. All right, so since I started here, and this is the first year with doing that, the feedback from principals was very consistent that they just found it a real challenge to have elections when you're running a school and the safety concerns and some of those things. So by having spring break the first week of April, that April 2nd is an election day, right? Now, if we were to do what a lot of the school districts are doing, which is the last week of March, well, then we'd have one day of school, and then we'd have a PD day. So that didn't make sense, right? If we went to the second week of April, then we have a week off, then we come back for 4 days, and we have a 4-day weekend. So that doesn't make sense either, right? So for us, it seems to make sense the first week of April. And it may vary from year to year between the last week of March to the first week of April, really depending on where Easter falls, right? So either we need Easter to be incorporated in spring break, or we need a week between for it to make sense. So with that, it means that we have 5 professional development days in the calendar rather than 6. And in order to add another professional development day, we talked about it, but it would mean reducing a student day of instruction. And so we decided that we wanted to preserve the 174 days of instruction because we definitely have needs to stay focused on that. So then what we did is that there's a 192-day kind of contract for teachers. And so without that adding a day, what we did is for all teachers, we added an extra day coming into the school year. Typically there are 5 days for teacher, kind of it's kind of planning and working in classrooms and the district kickoff, and there's some in-service. And so this was really Deidre's kind of cool idea. So on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, that's when we have new teachers coming back, right? So we have 3 days with new teachers. It's their onboarding and welcome to the district and training. And so we're already offering a number of professional development sessions on Wednesday the 22nd for new teachers. And so what we're going to do is open those sessions up to any teacher that wants, so any returning teacher that has it as a work day, they can elect to take those things. And if they don't, they're going to start their school year with a day to work in their classroom, which I think will be really welcome. So that rather than coming back and doing the kickoff right away, it's like, okay, let's get in the classrooms, or if they want to choose, if they choose to take some of the other PD. So that's the where we built the calendar. The last thing I'll point out, in January, the semester ends in kind of an odd spot. Ooh, this is the wrong version of this. I just caught this. Okay, so I'm gonna have to amend this because the semester ends on January 22nd. Typically, the day after that would be a record day, and in the conversation, we thought it made more sense to have the record date out on Friday, right? So rather than interrupt a week, then that families can, plan that as a long weekend. So I'd like to make that change as this gets approved.
That January 25th.
Correct. Right.
We don't need to move that, you're just going to amend that.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
just so it's understood in the action you're taking.
No. So when we put this together, the point was to try and have our spring break similar to other districts around us. So did we find that out? Is that everyone is going to be, or the majority are going to go for the first week of April, or where are we at?
It's going to be, I think the majority are between the last week of March and the first week of April. Some are going the last full week of March, which may push it back another week in some years, right? There are a number of districts that have done what we're doing in terms of not having school on election days, and all those districts are the first week of April because of where that falls for next year. So it's not universal yet, but this is quite a bit of progress in terms of trying to get this aligned.
Do we know percentage-wise where we're at, or like?
I don't have that information because some districts haven't approved their calendars. Some, I sat on the last conversation I had sat next to the superintendent from Kenosha, and she said her calendar for this year was approved last year. They do 2 years at a time. So they're locked in spring break at Easter. That's what they're still doing. All right, so it's, right, these things are, have been long in coming to try to get to this place.
Well, I just want to make sure, because I mean, I think when the parents answered the survey, it was with the understanding, the reasoning behind doing this was so that so if people are voting, yes, I want this because I have a kid in this district or that district, or my husband works for that district, that we aren't saying we're doing this for this reason, and then it turns out not to be that reason because other districts decide to do something else for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, we can't control what they do.
I understand that, but that was the reason why we put this forward, right?
Right, absolutely, yep.
And this was okay with the teachers?
Right, yeah. Andrew and I have been back and forth on it on email on each little change. It's like, okay, look at this, look at that.
I would like to compliment you. This is probably the most well-understood, well-thought-out calendar I've seen in years, starting with coming back to school on Tuesday after Labor Day. What a debacle this year, and I know it was not what was intended, and you had to talk it out to different people, you were hoping for versus what we got. But there's really good to see, and the days before and after it, that work out well for staff to have some time off with families as well. The incorporation of the spring break has been needed for a long, long time because we have the bad situation, and this is a year that really identifies it, where Easter lands and why we just, if it gets too late, then students suffer with teaching time in the classroom, so it's nice to see that. And a 4-day weekend that still honors Easter, a good year-ending date that is not too far into the summer period. Overall, just really well thought out, and adding to it the election situation to accommodate for safety of students and staff. So all in all, just very good job.
Is there any concern with March feeling long? I mean, I know we have a couple of these at the end of February, but is there any concern because there's no days off in March?
Yes. That's a concern. Those months, February, March, always feel
could be
long.
icky weather, so it's
Right.
kind of that, ooh.
That's always hard, that's for sure. But if we were to stick with Easter, Pat's right. I mean, just look
Yeah.
where spring break might go.
Right.
So we're looking for a motion to approve then.
Move to approve.
Second. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Pardon me. We'll move on to 10.2, the approval of amended purchase for offer of 1135, 1139, 1205 South 7th, and the McKinley property on 72nd Street.
Okay, so we don't have Andy this evening, so Mike Weaver's flying solo. His first venture into, you just got approved, and now here you are. But Andy has, one of his kids has a birthday party tonight. Like, these are not big changes in the conversation we've had, so I felt like between Mike and he'll keep me in line so we can figure this out. So essentially what's taken place is we've got a proposed amended offer to purchase, right? So Cobalt Partners, which is the party that's interested in buying these buildings and the parking lots, has increased the purchase price by $500,000, and that's in exchange for extending the closing date, right? So they need a longer closing date to work through pieces with the city, including their interest in buying McKinley, the McKinley property from the city, right? So the city has kind of the right of first refusal, essentially. There's a 30-day kind of period that we have to enter into, and then the city can exercise its right to buy that property back from us for $1. So that's the agreement we have with the city regarding McKinley. The developer is very much interested in, I think, getting, as much kind of land in the area as possible, but we haven't seen exactly what's going to be developed here yet. But in our last meeting with the developer and our broker, they did make a commitment to the city's expectation that there would be some green space included and in the development. How much, where that is, I have no idea. That's really them in the negotiations with the city, not with us. But that's where we are in our work to sell these properties. As the executive summary notes that, should the board choose not to approve the amended contract, the original contract still stands. It's just we're going to sell it for $500,000 less. And the city still has the right to pursue purchasing McKinley from us for $1. So to do it right? Yep. Okay. Correct. Right, that's the way.
Is the only way we're gonna get it?
I think it probably is, and it may even be the cleanest way, rather than the rent credits, to get it in the purchase price.
So this doesn't affect the rate, our rent rate at all that was agreed upon before?
Correct.
This is removing the rent credit that we were originally going to be given in exchange for McKinley. And we're getting an extra $500,000, not because of McKinley, but because of we're extending out the contract to purchase by 60 to 90 days. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the city could get money for McKinley if they decide to do the $1 buyback from us and then negotiate that with Cobalt directly?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Heather?
I know that we had discussed about the equipment on McKinley. Has there been a decision, like that outdoor gym equipment, when it would be moved then, if this is being extended out? So that if anything goes forward with the city, we know that that equipment's moving with the rec department?
It is moving with the rec department. I think Shelley already has plans in place to move it over to 68th Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the 5-year rent credit, that has nothing to do with the lease that we do with this building, correct? It's about McKinley?
The current contract has us getting a 5-year rent credit of $100,000 a year, right? So that kind of brings the cost of the rent down. So what works out more cleanly is for them to increase the purchase price by the $500,000, right? So essentially, we come out even in this deal. It's just a different way to make it happen.
But as far as us staying in this building, you wanted to have us utilize the services here for the next 5 years. That is still intact, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Noah?
By increasing the purchase price, this is also gonna stick us with the state next year by more as well.
That's correct, right, as the potential. But I think we should, what I understand from Andy, we should be pretty even next year in terms of the impact.
Right, but if it wasn't happening this way, we might actually have been able to reduce a little bit on the tax levy if we were having $500,000 less.
Isn't that what we said in our business services meeting when we talked about it, was leveled off? It wouldn't drop, it would stay the same, but it'd be
Based on what, increasing in the payments for the Act 32 funding?
Yeah, when we had our last meeting, that's what it was.
Okay.
That there would be, it's level the next couple of years and then it'll increase again.
I think you still have that concern there that anytime we take revenue in, the state is going to penalize us on state aid.
Correct.
That's the dynamic Noah's talking of, and in most cases, that is what happens. And that's a tough one. That's really unpalatable. And the loss of what we did this year could have bought us a new elementary school. It's disgusting. So over all the things you try to do to save money, reap revenue, and the state turns around and says, okay, well, then you get less state aid.
No, there's no doubt.
That's what we're facing.
Right. Yeah, the way the formula works, you get punished for being really careful with taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So where is this, if we approve this, where does this push the closing date out to?
I think we were talking about February.
We're at mid-February, so it's 30 days for them to work with the city, and then another 60 to 90 days to finalize the close. So it could be good to go, I believe, by the end of March or middle of April.
Now I'm going to ask a question. So this closing is not coming in this calendar year. This is moving it into the next year. That must have some impact on our budget, unless budget is going over the year 2017-18, or is it ending at the end of this year?
17-18.
Fiscal year.
It's a school year.
Right. And you feel really comfortable that this date's going to be where it is, because if it moves, it could move itself into if they ask for any more extensions, it could move into the next calendar year, and then we're going to be in that, where that revenue falls when we get the money.
Yes, so that's something we'll definitely keep an eye on as this thing moves forward. If we get into, March and they're asking for another extension that's going to possibly close beyond June 30th.
Right.
Yeah, then we're going to need to reconsider all of the way the revenue will impact us. Yep.
Okay, just so we got our eyes on it.
Are our guys aware of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a conversation you really need to have with the city, because the city is obviously delaying here. That's why I bet you're going to the move that you are, and they're difficult players, and Mike, welcome to the world of dealing with city-school relationships, but keep your eyes on that one.
Do we have a contingency on the contract like we did previously, where if they want to extend, that we get something for that? I mean, I know we have 500,000 here for 60 to 90. Previously, when they extended out by 30, they gave us, I think, $10,000. So is there anything moving forward if they extend it again? Or is it something they'd have to request and then give an offer to us to do that?
So I don't know.
I actually do not know that one. That's not something Andy and I had spoken of. I think we're pretty confident, outside of some of the factors, but I think we're pretty confident that this will start to move forward now.
Okay.
But I can look into that.
Yeah.
It might be worthwhile to encourage, to ensure that this is not going to be an ongoing thing, that this is like, we don't want this to happen again, so please do your level best to get this completed in this time frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any further last-minute questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That passes. Dr. Lexman kind of addressed some of the future workshop items, but this is a time for future agenda or workshop items. Any suggestions since our last meeting? Sue?
I would like to look into the district's policy on teaching printing and cursive writing. I've had many complaints from the community that we don't teach our students how to write. And
Have you brought that up in your committee? Because that's what it would come out.
right, but I'm also, bringing it up so that you know. Yes, I do plan to bring it up in our committee also.
Okay.
But I thought that you'd want to know that the community feels, the community that's come to me has very strong feelings.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess while Brian tears down the cameras, and I would ask people in the audience, when we come back and convene, we will be in closed session, so we do need to vacate the room. We are at recess.